Hey everybody, James Potten here, and welcome to Wiser Wednesday. So we're here to talk about the journey from founder to CEO today. So with us, we have some really exciting guests. So super, just brilliant people that some I've known for quite a while and some that I've only met very recently. I just briefly go through a bit about their background. In short, because they're going to tell you a bit more about themselves. Miranda, like you're a Scrabble geek and weight trainer, and you're earlier on in your journey of founder to CEO, but have huge potential. And I'm so excited to see where you take your business, and your passion for what you do is just it's infectious. It's amazing. Liam, likewise, you've been inspired by your granddad who came from Turkey, age 16. We've known with him, and he's had no family, no possessions, and built multiple successful businesses. So love to hear more about that. Jay, you've open about not passing any of your GCSEs. Basically, you've been a baker, a carpenter, part of a team that had a £5 million project all before you're 28, and you're someone I've just seen accelerate, like in your learning. You just dedicate yourself to just getting on and learning through helping others, which is really just a really amazing quality. And Karen, only met recently, but you're published 40 books. You've sold 2 million books and courses globally, like worldwide. So just amazing to have you on here today, and share your experience. And apparently you make amazing, is it marinara sauce? So recipe. Will you share that with the group at some point if they ask for it? So so I've done a quick intro. For me, why I do what I do. I believe in a world of success and scaling without burnout. Being through 5 startups myself, hit some really difficult times, and seen sort of good times, and it's not easy, and it's much more fun doing it with others. So that's why we're here today. I'll go around the table first. So Jay, first up, just give us like 1 minute, your journey to where you are today.
Sure, yeah. So my journey really started 3 years before I even thought about founding a company. Decided at the time I was a baker, one of my many vocations. Decided it wasn't really for me, wanted to change. So I looked at improving my skills through tech, joined an open university course. As James said, I had no GCSEs pretty much to my name. Took 4 years out to pretty much just work on myself, and then got into the IT space. Met my co-founder while in that field, and we decided to found a company to help other companies with their startup development needs. That is probably the shortest version I can make
it. No swearing, which is incredible, and like the least I've heard you say. So next up on my screen, Miranda.
Yes. Hi. So I am actually a qualified accountant, and I have been for 11 or so years now. And as I qualified, I almost immediately went into leading finance teams, working in really busy startup environments, or going into places where there was a need for systems and there was a need for kind of process efficiency. And I just found that a lot of things, lots of archaic systems were in place, and people just, I think there was an appetite from the people, who actually work, or, frontline staff, as I call them, to improve things and to bring about efficiencies. But sometimes there was a disconnect between those people and C-suite executives. And I just started looking for better ways to do things, and almost naturally gravitated into becoming more of a consultant. And along that journey, I came across the very niftily named robotic process automation, or RPA for short, which is basically creating software robots that can do what a human being can do on a computer. And I was immediately drawn to to this technology, I immediately knew that it was going to revolutionize the way businesses operated moving forward, and I wanted to be a part of that revolution. And that's that's how I got here. Still a little bit shocked that I'm here, but that's how I got here.
Well, we'll go into imposter syndrome a little bit later. So yeah, next on my screen, Liam.
Yeah, so come out of school a bit like Jay, didn't have too much to kind of show for it. Spent 10 years kind of working for people, doing different jobs, and my career path changed 2013. Kind of stepped away from what was my last employed job at the time, and thought I'm probably not built to be an employee, and I felt ready to kind of take the leap. I remember going away actually on a family trip, and I weren't quite sure what I was going to do, but I know I needed to do something. So I've had a couple of successful businesses, and probably more than a few failed ones along the way of kind of ideas and concepts. But I kind of found a niche moved into the renewable sector in 2015-16. I've launched 2 businesses in that sort of space. One's a waste to energy business, and then more recently where I'm currently CEO and co-founder of an electric vehicle charging business. I just really love the hustle, really, and I know it's kind of that buzzword, but just kind of building something from nothing, just a concept and an idea, and then turning it into a business that can flourish. So yeah.
Awesome, thanks, Liam. And yeah, so Karen, all the way from New York as well. So early start for you, and I understand you've got to do the school run, so we've got you for about another half an hour. So, but look, you sounded like you started really young in your journey of creativity. So yeah, tell us how that sort of panned out for you.
Sure. I started off in New York advertising agencies like J. Walter Thompson, McCann Erickson, Young Rubicam, and I rose up very quickly. I got a Clio like the first year, sort of like the advertising Emmy or whatever you want to call it. My first year in the business, and I became like a senior vice president, creative director in my 20s. I was doing very well, but I wasn't happy. It was like a lot of political backstabbing. I used to joke that you couldn't drink a glass of water without it spurting out the knife holes in your back or whatever. And so I kept threatening to quit. My parents kept talking me out of it. How could you quit? You're doing so well. And then my philosophy was, if I'm doing well at something I don't like, and I apply those skills to something I do like, then maybe I'll do well in the thing I like. So I just quit and didn't tell my parents for a while. And then I started off writing books and screenplays, and I had like lots of best-selling books, and sold my books, some of my first novel to Miramax to be a movie, and like TV shows and blah, 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 blah. And then I came back. I was living in LA doing TV and screenwriting. And then I came back to New York, and I decided to do more books. And I've since published about over 40 books. Many bestsellers, have sold over 2 million. And now I do courses. So altogether, I've sold over 2 million books and online courses. And I have about 1.5 million social media followers and like 100,000 newsletter subscribers, because I took what I learned in advertising and marketing, kept up leveling it, because the world changes. And I say the world is constantly changing. You got to change with it. So some of the marketing obviously is more based on online marketing, which is different than the old school advertising. But that has definitely helped me to stay thriving in however I reinvent myself.
Well, look, it's amazing to have you here, Karen. We hope to learn like lots from you, and look, everyone here today is you're special people. You've got something, you've done that kind of, you've decided to go, right, I'm going to do something, zagging when others zig, that type of thing. It's difficult. It's not easy to go on the sort of founder journey. And I kind of liken it to like the monkey bar analogy, where you can't hold or reach for the next one until you've made it visible enough, and you won't let go of this one until you've done it. So maybe should we start, Miranda, for yourself? Like, what was it that you so when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So what was that for you?
So I think what I said no to was that kind of lack of being, autonomy over, what my work day looks like, what direction I want to go in, what, having a bigger influence on the culture. But, what you're leaving behind sometimes then is structure, and sometimes even though it's like it's not the greatest structure, Karen talked about politics, which grinds my absolute gears. It's at least something. And so it feels like you're stepping outside of a poorly built house, but then you're stepping into a thunderstorm, and now you've got to very quickly start stacking the bricks and getting your, roof up. And, so for me, that was, I think that was probably a really difficult part of it, and also stepping away from the illusion of security, of job security, or as a consultant, contract security. I've got 6 months or whatever, and you're stepping into an unknown. But the beauty of that unknown is that it is unknown, and therefore it can, within that, you can create something that's more fit for you.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, Liam, do you want to jump in with your yes and no?
Touch on the same as what Miranda said there. It's kind of, I was, like I said before, kind of fortunate that I had a bit of time to reflect. And when I kind of started that yes and no journey to become effectively an entrepreneur, and going, what am I saying yes to? I didn't even know, but I knew what I was saying no to almost, in there, almost to turn that question on the other way around. And where I was away on holiday, I had a good chance to kind of reflect on what I'd done in my career. And I've noticed that I'd always turned down the jobs at the bigger companies and gone for the ones that are more entrepreneurial, and bought into kind of working with the right leaders and learning from them, things like that. And learned loads from some great people. But one of the major things I learned is not just what they're good at, but what they're bad at, and realised they weren't all perfect. So it's quite nice to kind of see the imperfections and go, I can be imperfect as well and be to a level I want to be at. So it's an interesting one, the yes and the no. But yeah, it's then it sets you off on the path obviously you want to follow. But I'm quite good at tending to analyze a situation and make decisions. So it's kind of took me where I am today. So.
Awesome. Yeah, Jay, have you got a?
It's really interesting question, not something I've sort of thought about in detail, but similar to Liam, I didn't know what I was saying yes to, and it was very much a big shock to what I was actually saying yes to when I decided to found. But what I knew I was moving away from is sort of the box you sort of put yourself in as an employee. I was an okay employee, I did my job, but I always felt like I was ahead of my ambition, or where I could take my ambition within any company. I'd often find myself shifting from position to position, either internally or externally, and then I sort of thought, right, is this too slow for me, for my progression? So that's really what sparked that decision for me, and to really look at what I'm turning away from. On reflection, what I was saying yes to was sort of expanding that bubble of knowledge of being uncomfortable, but in control of wider situations, and really just exploring what that meant as a founder, and how much that can improve if you just make the leap.
Yeah. Okay, that's great, Jay. Interjecting, like for me, I remember it was actually a Tony Robbins event. Apologies to have to, no, but I mean they're really powerful. Like, and it was 6:30 in the morning, and I woke up and I was like, actually, like for the first time, because I understood the concept of the entrepreneur, the manager, and the artist. I was like, I want to be the artist. It's that creativity that was what really I'd suppressed as a result of being within structures that didn't need me to be the artist. So that was the kind of, for me with Amplified, that's the journey. Karen, what with what you're hearing, what's the how would you reflect on this? Because you're a massive advocate for positive psychology and
well, I know that wanting to be innovative and creative, and a lot of advertising was about like focus groups. And I remember there was one time, this was kind of what they say, inciting incident. Like one of the things that just like pushed me over the edge was we were given a Kraft mayonnaise commercial to write on the same day that my art director announced that his wife was pregnant. And his wife gave birth to a live human being with like little fingers and toes, like baby born, before we gave birth to our Kraft mayonnaise commercial, because there were so many like focus groups and changes and this and that. And I was like, I wanted to really use my creativity full force. And I also wanted to do something more fulfilling. I didn't want to just, use my creativity to sell mayonnaise. I wanted to use my creativity, for good, and not like, I wouldn't say evil. Mayonnaise isn't evil, but like for something like, because that's how I got into
the calorie count says different.
Yeah,
but Karen,
if you try to lose weight.
But I like writing books that help people, and now courses that help people. I like applying my creativity to things that do good in the world, and that also was a big yes for me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I guess in another sort of reflection is that sort of becoming a founder, well, owning a business is easy, like running a good business is hard. So getting on in the UK, it's Companies House, so you register, it costs 18 quid or whatever, and suddenly you're a founder as such. But this is important about where you set your goals, because weirdly that had been my goal, to like own a company or whatever, but that's the goal was set too short, because you have to then re-baseline your goal and go, right, actually is running a good one is what needs to be the goal, and that needs to be the sort of shift. So so for others, maybe because Jay, you've had a real roller coaster, so like really awesome highs and some significant kind of challenges in the last even just like 2 weeks, because every time I speak to you it's different. So talk us through like what that's been like for you, and how have you managed like both the highs and the lows?
Oh God, well, manage is probably the wrong term, but so put a bit of context on that. We'd landed, so on a high, we'd landed a massive deal for the company. Will accelerate us, to the next level in terms of where we want to go with the business. Not 5-6 days before that, we had lost a smaller deal, but something again which would have accelerated us. So I'd gone from not knowing how we're going to make money to making something that took, or landing something that took 6 months to sort of build and pitch and sell to the client. So I think as a founder, the emotional shift that you have to deal with is something ridiculous, and that's something I didn't expect when founding a company. But it has forced me to build coping mechanisms and try and build healthy coping mechanisms. There's obviously a stigma that's dropping nowadays, which is great, about talking to a therapist. I talked to a therapist for a few months during the first 2 years of the company. I've explored things like hypnotherapy to help with anxiety and stress in those areas. But biggest support network is family and friends, and having a great team in the company as well. And that sort of goes into hiring the right people and sort of the vision of the company. But I've got to shout out my partner. She's supported me through thick and thin, sleepless nights. I think that is probably a great foundation to have, is having that support network of people. And this is where these sort of meetings help with me, being part of the Amplified program, is having founders to talk to and having other CEOs to talk to, because they get it. Your family and friends are great, but if they don't understand where, you know, the struggles you go through, whether it's, you know, money about stress, money about people, stress about people, you know, they don't get it. So it's great to have a support network.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jay. And like, yeah, like thanks for your honesty as well. Like, it is so interesting how, yeah, like being able to have therapists, coach, and so on. Like, and interestingly, hypnotherapy like is becoming much more mainstream.
I was super skeptical at first. I was like, hypnotherapy is, you know, will it work? And then I've done 2 sessions so far, and there is a measurable change in my attitude, and that's coming from external sources, not something I've observed in myself. So
Yeah,
there's some validity in it, but obviously, you know,
yeah. Well, there's also, I think there's a concern is that, you know, I haven't done it as well, like that it's going to change you. So, you know, there's a real worry, like, I like who I am. If I do this, does it change me? But it just gets you to unpack stuff that you've got going on that
it just drills a bit deeper than what you can, because I found with therapy, you'd mask. You'd put a mask on because you're used to masking in front of the people around you. Different forms of therapy help you drop that mask. So it helped me massively there.
Anyone else got other things that you like, routines, or how do you, like, maybe Miranda, what do you do to keep your because you're a really exciting stage in your business, but you've also had to just be, you know, have dogged determinism, you know, really for the last like at least 6 months. So but you've kept going, and you're cooking on gas. So
thank you. Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, so I've always had an interest in kind of that whole mindset, not to trample on Karen's territory here, but you know, I've always strongly advocated to people around me that, you know, and I always use this example of, you know, when two people, you have siblings who grew up in the same household, and maybe they had parents who couldn't look after them. You'll have one sibling who becomes a roaring success, and you say, whoa, wow, what motivated you? How did you become this person? And they'll say, oh, well, you know, it was really bad. My mom was this, or my dad was never around, and we were dirt poor. And then you'll find one who's maybe in prison, and you say, well, how did you get here? He'll say, whoa, listen, my mom was never around and we were dirt poor. But you know, they have the same circumstances, but they've used those in different ways to inspire who they've become. So I knew that despite the fact that the start was quite challenging, and it wasn't challenging in that it was any more difficult or things were made harder by any circumstances, it was just challenging because I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'd attained a certain kind of level in my career in the corporate world, and you know, I didn't want to. It was like a pride thing, or you could say an ego thing, or an accomplishment thing. So I really leaned in on that mindset thing. I leaned in on, you know, to what Jay alluded to earlier. I think sometimes the emotions we reach for and the behaviors and the habits we reach for are based on our subconscious programming. So I leaned a lot on sort of meditation and getting beyond that ego and those, you know, we all have those voices in our heads that tend to lean towards the negative. And I started, you know, looking at that voice and saying, well, why are you assuming it's bad? Or why are you assuming it's, you know, why am I assuming the worst when actually there's so many more options I could consider? So meditation has been huge for me.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Karen, like, yeah, what's your
I have so many. I mean, psychology, I always loved psychology when I was growing up. I used to read Psychology Today magazine and Mad magazine. Do you have Mad magazine where you are? Do you know what that is? It's a funny magazine.
No.
So I write funny. I say if you put Psychology Today and Mad magazine in a blender and press frappe, you'd get my books, because I always had humor. Like, you know, How to Be Happy, Damn It is one of my books. But so a couple of things that I do is, first of all, one I got from my son's classroom. This is a quickie. When he was in 3rd grade, they built this giant wall devoted to the word yet. And then they had, this is from 3rd grade. I loved it. And then they have like, I'm not reading at the level I want yet. I don't know how to do math yet. And they said that whatever your problem is, you just go yet, and it changes your mindset. So, okay, I'm not making 7 figures yet. I'm not making 8 figures yet. I haven't. So I love that word yet. I love that. The other thing is that regular affirmations sometimes don't work for me because it's hard to believe them when you're really in a negative mindset. So I say that people should pour themselves a cocky tale, where you remind yourself of the time that you've slam dunked or accomplished something. And that helps to convince you, because it's based in logic. And then you turn that into mindset. Well, I sold a screenplay to Miramax, I can do this, And then I also tell myself phrases like, I am smarter than this problem, or I'm more creative than this problem. And then at one point I came up with this silly name for myself, where my identity is destiny. And I just told myself, I am the problem meister. I've never met a problem that I couldn't help. So, and because it's funny, I'm the problem meister, but it's also my identity. I don't mind it. I like problems. I can solve this. It's my identity changes. And then the last thing is that when I wake up in the morning, I don't just write my to-do list. I write what I call my to-be list. So Frank Sinatra, he sang doobie doobie doo. Well, he's a great crooner. Not me, I'm a terrible crooner. We're backwards. He's a great crooner, but a dyslexic self-help book author. And I'm good at the self-help stuff. So I say that you should sing be do. And because who you are affects what you'll do. So if you ask yourself in your journal every morning, who do I need to become to get what I want in life? Who do I need to become to solve this problem? And then you think of adjectives, which are really character traits or core values. I need to be a better communicator. I need to be more brave. I need to be more organized. I need to be more disciplined. I need to be a better listener. And you write all of those to be's down. And then you look at your to-do list. You will do your to-dos better when you focus on, because really you have to change who you are on the inside to change what you accomplish. So I write my little to-be list before I write my to-do list, and then I use it to look and to motivate myself. So that's another quickie.
No, amazing. Yeah. I've had it described to me before as almost your container. And if we're not thinking big, we've got a small container around us. And if we're thinking much bigger thoughts and much bigger picture, our container can hold much more, much more energy. And it's actually someone who is into positive psychology on NACA who is describing this to us. But I think it's really powerful. It just is. There's something about looking up and taking a deep breath and feeling you kind of, I don't know about deserve, but there's just so much in it. And it's whereas if we're sort of shrinking violet or whatever, if we're not feeling that imposter syndrome thing, it really hampers all of us, but especially and if you're on the CEO kind of founder of the CEO journey. Liam, how about yourself? Because you sort of strike me as someone who's, well, you're definitely people and process centric, but you put your client first in what you do. And you quadrupled your turnover last year. You've actually gone down the fundraising route as well. So you've got a lot. There's a lot of belief in you and what you do. Talk us through that.
Yeah. For me, this was mentioned earlier actually on this call. I believe in what I do because I couldn't do it if I didn't, genuinely. And it's kind of, I know I could probably go earn a hell of a lot more money doing something else, and I wouldn't like it and wouldn't enjoy it, and I wouldn't have that buzz for what I do. But yeah, it's kind of what I've learned probably the most has probably helped me is I've been really self-aware. And that's one of the things it was actually one of the things my mum actually installed into us as kids. Kind of, I remember coming back, if I fell out with someone on a Monday, then someone else on a Tuesday and someone else on a Wednesday, the first thing she would say is, you're the common denominator. So I think you need to look at yourself before you start moaning about Fred, Paul and John. It's you need to probably have a look at yourself. So it's kind of something that's been still quite young. And what I then found is I know I need to manage myself. So where I want to be, and I'm not. So what I tend to do, and a few people on this call will probably know this, I like to chat and have a conversation with people. There you go, there's a few sniggers and laughs. But what I've found is I've built myself a network of people around me that don't tell me what I want to hear. They tell me what I need to hear, but I know, and they're not always nice when you dial them. I know who I need to call at different points. So it's funny, I won't call my mum when I've got a problem, because my mum will tell me I'm amazing and that I'm doing well and kind of keep going. I tend to call my mum when I've done something well and tell her, Mum, I've done this well, because I just need to brag a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's the call you don't make to someone, but it's kind of, so for me, network's really important. So the people around me that know who I am to the core, know what I'm about, know my principles and values, but can also just tell me straight. And I want to hear it straight. I'm quite transparent with people. And that's why I found even like Amplified and Catalyst Group just phenomenal in that regard, because it's nice to have like-minded people around you. I'm quite fortunate that in different social circles, I've got different friends. I mean, 2 of my friends, we've got a group of 10 boys, 2 of my friends are ridiculously successful. So it's kind of like, it's good to kind of go to them and you can kind of bounce stuff with. Other guys, not so much, they're not worried about that. So I kind of pick my little pockets and then have that network of people I can kind of bounce things off. And that's just what's really helped me kind of control me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, there's the whole concept of you're the 6 people you surround yourself by, right? So it's it is interesting. I think you have to be a little bit careful with that sort of stuff, because some people then just like ditch half their mates. But but it is interesting. Like, what do you allow in? And most importantly, what do you allow yourself to tell yourself? Because that's probably, the whole concept of being told that you're bad at maths. If you then tell yourself 199 times more that you're bad at maths, that's 200 times being told you're bad at maths. So
sorry to interject. I resonate with what Liam said there. So what I've discovered through my founder's journey is that my friendship group changed. So where people, or whether I was the common denominator, as Liam says, or whether they was there, but the shift changed, and the people who sort of stuck around were the people who got the journey. So I 100% resonated with what Liam was saying there.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
Yeah. It's tricky because, and also with family, like often there isn't really an understanding of, my mum always, I remember when we were like buying another company, she was like, you're already busy enough. Like, why are you doing that? And it's just kind of really difficult to like, so for me, Liam, it's harder to share success with my mum in that respect. But
it's important also to have people that don't care about what you do. But actually, because I need to get away from it. I need to leave that problem in the office and I just need someone that
to ground you.
And actually, it doesn't matter what you do. And a few friends of mine that they couldn't give it. If you earn £1, £1 million, they're not career motivated, but they don't even ask how's work. And it's quite nice in that regard. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes you just got to have, that's why I say I need to know myself and need to know where I need to go to either deal with my problem or kind of shut down and kind of just manage me and my mind.
Yeah. I'd like to sort of just shift it into, because to some extent the sort of founder to CEO journey is about shifting from me to we. So there's this kind of you may have a couple of co-founders, but you naturally build it around yourself. But then you've got to try and, you want to find people that want to come on that journey. So like, what is it that you can do to like inspire others to do that? And then how do you actually, release stuff so it's not all of you? And how do you avoid as well being the sort of savior that ends up flying in, solving problems, leaving again, and what I see a lot happening is being almost creating this behavior within a team because they know that you'll fly in and solve it, they won't solve it. So it's really, really problematic in a startup when this happens, and there's almost like a need from a founder perspective to be needed. And so this behavior is like, subconsciously again created. Anyone had experience of that, either in your own business or in other businesses?
Yeah, I would say so. So when we first founded the company, so it was me and my business partner Louis. It was 50-50, and the responsibilities were shared. But there was a conversation that I had after a few arguments where things weren't clear. We didn't know which direction we were going in. We were dropping the ball with things, and that marked this change from founder to CEO, and really defining what it means to do that. And what we found after we had that conversation, it was explicitly said, right, you're going to be CEO, you're going to be CTO, we're going to have these responsibilities, and really define that. That's where we really picked up on the traction, and we went from strength to strength from that. And on the point of bringing the right people in, I would say we would have failed if we brought someone in any earlier than that point. It wasn't until after that point we were ready to bring our first employee on, because we understood what needed to be done. And since we've grown to a team of 5 now, so 2 of us to 5, we're able to do that because there's an understanding of where people's roles are and where their strengths are, and it is that sort of mentality. It's like I'd never get involved in certain aspects of the business now because it's not under my remit. I need to be aware of it, and there's obviously practices you can employ to understand where you need to be just aware of things. But yeah, since that sort of conversation happened, and implementing processes, massive help. Just having things written down to say where things need to go, how it needs to happen, that's really accelerated the business. And I feel more comfortable in calling myself a CEO now rather than a founder because of that shift. And that understanding, or that shift in understanding.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jay. Thank you. Yeah, and that clarity of role, like, is absolutely key. Karen, I'm aware that you might need to leave shortly. But before you do that, I've actually got 2 questions. But so the first one is, you've got like huge, you've got like this amazing community that you've created. You're also kind of looking at how you sort of shift in your role. You're the creator in your business. What are some of the things that you're looking to do in 2022 that sort of shifts things so you're able to sort of scale you?
Great question, and very pertinent because it's all happening. I had more during when the pandemic hit. A lot of people wanted to be entrepreneurs and build up their brands and businesses, and I had already been helping people to do this, but more and more people started to come to me, and in particular they wanted to create online courses around what they're doing. So I started to help individuals to create online courses, and everybody was doing really well. And I kept upping my prices, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to create a course to help other people to create courses. And that's what I've just launched, a course on that, make profitable courses without the overwhelm, because I have the extra skill set of helping people with their mindset and the overwhelm. And that's what's stopping people from trying something new, like taking what they're doing and morphing it into a course. And so with my ability to help people with their mindsets and get over their fears of doing something new, creating an online course, and how to create the technology and the marketing and blah, 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 blah. And also because I sort of touch every part myself, and I kind of know how to teach, like course writing, course video, course design, course sales page copy. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm kind of morphing more into helping people with their businesses, with branding and, mindset and all of that kind of stuff, more business.
Yeah,
more.
amazing.
That's what I'm doing.
Very
Less-
meta, a training course about creating training courses. I like
Yes.
it.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. And actually, we just launched, we start the group coaching. There are going to be 12 group coaching calls start on June 3rd. And that to me is growing me, because I don't do much. I've never done group coaching. So I'm going to have to stretch. So, but I'm ready, because everything that I've gotten, it's because I, felt like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And then I just threw myself in. That's how I kind of feel about group coaching. I'm like, oh my God, I've never done that. But if I'm telling people to do things that they're thinking, oh my God, I've never done that, then I have to be able to do that. So that's where I'm going out of my comfort zone right now, is the 12 group coaching calls I've never done before.
Yeah, amazing. And putting this sort of stake in the ground and going, this is what I'm doing, and your why for why you're doing it. You then work out the how, like, because it's, you've got a date, it's happening.
And you know what I do? I also somehow or other trick myself thinking it's going to be fun. I somehow like, this will be fun. And also I remind myself the parts that I do like. I do like people and human connection, and I do like helping people, and I like feeling like, and I like communication. So sometimes if you just put up the online course and you're not a part of it, you don't get to feel that human interact. Even like a book goes out into the world, you don't sit there and watch somebody reading the book and like, you don't feel it. But so I'm reminding myself, this will be fun, this will be good. And I link it to the things I like rather than linking it to the things I don't like.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, I know you have to go. So sort of spoiler alert for the others, but so if you were to go back to the start of your entrepreneurial journey, what bit of advice would you give yourself in less than 20 words?
I'm going to sneak off to get my son ready for school.
Oh, that was to you, that question, Karen.
Yes. Yeah, great meeting you all.
Okay. You're not answering it.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were asking the rest of everybody.
No, sorry, to you, Karen. Like, what in less than 20 words, what bit of advice would you give yourself as you were starting your entrepreneurial journey?
Write everything down, keep rewriting it. It's a living, breathing organism. Be ready to change what you thought originally it should be, but not change like dramatically. Like, just be ready to be open to how to improve it as you keep going. And everything has problems, and when it happens, don't think it's the end. Just say, oh, this is the part where the problem comes in, and then try to adapt. And successful people are not people that never fail. They're people that know how to fail really well. Every member of the Fortune 500 club could be a member of the Misfortune 500 club. And it's like, it's seeing failure is fuller, and like full of lesson. Like, I just, I don't know. I guess that's sort of my quickie answer.
Awesome. So, and just always add yet to it.
Always add yet. Always add yet.
Love it.
How you start your day is important, and how you end your day is important. So starting with the right mindset and preparing, don't just jump right in. I always start with, I wake up early. I wake up every morning really early just to get myself into a positive frame of mind and do things that put me, feeling powerful. And then I jump in, and then I end my day thinking about the good stuff that I accomplished, gratitude, like those bookends really help also for mindset.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. Well, lovely to have you on today. Good luck on the school run, and we look forward to speaking again soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Great to meet you.
Bye, Karen.
Bye.
Bye. Great. So so you now know the question at the end. Sorry guys, but I think just getting sort of like, towards the end now, just looking to sort of close this out. Well, when we look at so again, the three of you all strike me as people that make time for planning. And I think, well, I'm going to quote myself, if we don't make time for planning, we're forced to make time for problems. So like, that's something that I really believe in. It just things, if we just put things off and procrastinate and so on, and don't deal with it, it can be a huge issue in the scaling journey, and we'll miss things because we're just not looking up, we're just head down doing. So is any what have people done, what have people done in terms of routines, or how do you kind of keep connected with the planning bit and not just doing for doing's sake? So who first? I'll go to Miranda.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've started to kind of get into certain, and you'll love this one, James, rhythms, right? So, I know certain times of the week. So Monday is much better for me to look at strategy, talk to members of the team, try and work out, what's coming, what the plan is. I mean, it's because it's still pretty much in its infancy and we're growing, and things are, as Jay talked about earlier, 1 minute it's like, oh, this is happening, it's not, okay, this is happening. So there's still kind of that, it's a movable feast at the moment. However, it's trying to put some structure around it, and then leaving that space for, okay, this is where we expect really big growth or really big changes, and also depending on how client conversations are going, it could then do an about face very quickly, requirements change very quickly. So I guess it's just trying to build that rhythm around a startup, which can be like, taming a beast, but certainly I think just having the notion of wanting to put structure in place is really helpful to kind of keep that wrapped around whatever's happening in a particular week.
Awesome. Thanks, Miranda. Jay?
I would say I'm sort of opposite. So I don't really pick a day to do a certain task because it's, as Miranda said, such a movable feast. I tend to do whatever the day dictates of me. But what I've found is, to save being busy and save that making me go down rabbit holes of stuff I don't need to do, I'm quite a visual learner. So what I do, I build myself flow maps of process, of understanding. So if a curveball is thrown at me, a client inquiry comes in and it's high priority, we need to jump on it, I know I've built a flow that I know the process, but I can look at this and say, right, that's happened, what's next? And it stops me. I don't know if anyone else has felt it, but you get this overwhelming sense of, I don't know what to do, and you sort of freeze and you're like, okay, what next? And you do have to take that step back. With these flows, I've sort of set up a process where I can look at something and it's almost it takes me out of that panic mode. And it's like, you've got it written down, don't panic. You know what's going to happen because you've planned for it. Of course, you can't plan for everything, but that's definitely something that's really, really helped me get through the week, because I can't believe it's Wednesday already, but sort of helps me with that flow. In terms of like personal routines and things like that, I tend to go with the rhythm of my body. So say I have more energy in the evening, one of the best things about being the head of a company, you sort of have that flexibility to shift your day to where your energy is. So I've found, I'll, as Karen was saying, I'll bookend my day with the same things, but I won't put a time to it. So I'll have a coffee and read something, or sit in the garden if the weather's nice at whatever time that sort of happens. And then there's a technique I learned during hypnotherapy that helps me pack away my visual files of the day into a nice box, which I can pick up when I'm ready the next day. And just having that visualization technique really helps most of the time in collecting my thoughts and getting me ready for the next day, which we all know could be a complete curveball and start that process all over again.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Jay. Liam.
Mine's a few things. standard stuff. Like I'm adamant on managing my diary, so I time allocate stuff, and just kind of make sure I'm organised. Because I really struggle unless I'm not. The other one for me is a few things. One is, go back to what I said earlier, just talk to people, have a conversation, have a think, have a kind of, what I tend to do is I take myself away. I like to go for a walk, have a think, a bit of me time. Not always the easiest when you've got a business and 2 young kids, but just kind of go for a wander and just have some time to think when you're alone, which actually just allows you to kind of calmly look at the situations. Because I also know I'm someone that enjoys an element of the mayhem. I flourish when challenged. So it's kind of like I can find myself trying to, you mentioned it earlier, tackle the problems, but I'm not going to grow a business by doing that. And that's why I found also this program's helped, because I've then done some of the stuff that Jay's talking about and then implement some things behind it. So when we solve the problem, write about it, put that down, become a process flow, and then you've got a template. So then you can allocate that to someone else. So yeah, it's really for me, managing my diary, taking time to think, but talking to people, but also very open to their feedback, because I don't know all the answers. So it's very much a case of, and I make that very clear when we talk, it's like, I don't know if I've got this right. This is what I'm thinking. This is how I want to tackle certain things. And I'm really a keen advocate of like weaknesses and doing things wrong. I think they're good because you learn from them quickly. So I when people make mistakes, I make it very clear that I don't care in the business, because as long as we learn from it, it's not a problem. And that's been quite a challenge for some people to work with. But yeah, it's not scared of being challenged, not scared of making mistakes is one of the things that I've found really helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Any thoughts on that? Anyone want to add to it? Or
yeah, just a good point on being an advocate of failure. Whenever we take someone on new, we say you haven't really truly joined the team unless you've made a big mistake. And JP, you'd probably know I would have phrased that different if we weren't live.
Yeah, having beeping it out.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at things, and you learn from mistakes, and promoting it within the company to learn from is only going to strengthen your team, I believe.
Yeah. But we to the extent in the environmental consultancy, we introduced I screwed up cards. So it was so people had, we gave people permission to share that there were problems and try to like nurture a culture where people could own up to it, because we can actually solve it and learn from it. Like, it's only really failure if no one learns from it. So and weirdly the acronym of that is I suck. So I screwed up card. Yeah. So that was, but but it was, I was the first one to fill it out. It was really important, like as in the team to have that. So, okay. Yes. We're very near in the end. Let's do the advice you'd give your sort of younger self when you were going on your entrepreneurial journey. So yeah, starting with Miranda.
I thought it might start with me. I think the advice I would give myself would probably be to look at the organization structure and fill your skill gaps. Just because you can't be all things to all men at all times. So yeah, and relax. It's not life or death. It's literally, we're on a floating rock. I think it's traveling around 1,000 miles an hour. So, just chill out.
Awesome. Thanks, Miranda. Jay?
Yeah, it's similar to that. So at the beginning of the journey, it was life or death, whatever the scale of the news, so it's take it in moderation. So celebrate your wins. I know we've talked about that before, but making a loss on something isn't the end of the world, and don't let that affect your confidence in your abilities. That would underpin the rest of my learning. Is you can do great things, but you have to be confident in those abilities. Next bit of advice would be start writing down the processes earlier, so you can learn to delegate earlier. because as soon as I alluded to earlier, the sooner you can start delegating and understand process, the better, because that's when scale really, really happens, because you get your time freed up to do what needs to be done to lead the company. And then the last bit of advice is sort of ties into that is get better explaining your vision. So understand where you want the company to go, because when I founded the company, was it about money? Probably. As soon as I discovered that it wasn't about money and this journey needs to be something much bigger, everything else fell into place. My the vision changed, the message changed, the clients we were bringing on board changed, and that just changed everything in its entirety.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Jay. It's absolutely key. It's a strategy is a great story to talk backwards. So you have to sort of get people to understand where it is we're going, and obviously we know the line is not straight, it's a wiggly sort of path, but just having a compass more than a map, I think, is key, and obviously that's the North Star piece, like just knowing where you're going. So Liam?
I think the one Jay just said is superb in terms of, I learned the same with Jay. I thought I set the business up to make more money, and I realized I didn't, because you can make money doing money comes and goes. So it's kind of, you need to be fulfilled, because this is tough. If I could go back, I would certainly be saying to myself, write down your 3 and 5 year, not just a plan. I'd write a plan, but actually, what is the goal? What is the objective? Like where, and put it away for 3 years, put it away for 5 years, and come back to it and reread it then. If I had done that, I think I'd have got where I wanted to get to quicker, and just been very on that path. I never really lacked the element of believing eventually I'd be able to do it. I just didn't know how long it would take me. So it's kind of but yeah, probably be patient and write down a longer term vision in terms of where you want to be. Those are probably the two things. And I've been an entrepreneur for, it's a bit of a term, but yeah, it's kind of in that regard for nearly 10 years. And for me, it's always the business is bigger than anyone. So for my whole objective, and I kind of learned this 2 years in, I want to build a business that is bigger than me, that I'm not good enough to be in. And that's my objective as being a successful entrepreneur.
Awesome. Yeah.
Can I just say just one last thing, actually, that's really been key for me is networking. And Liam talked about that earlier. I think get around people who understand that journey. And when I think it can be quite an isolating journey. So it's really, really important that you have spaces that allow you to share how you're feeling, and hearing people say, oh yeah, I've been there, I've done that, I understand that. It makes a huge difference as well.
Can I jump in on that, actually? So there's a really good point you made there, because one of my old bosses, and it's actually something that happened this week, right? One of my old bosses, he's a really polarizing character. He used to say, no, you need to either be loved or hated. Don't care about the bit in the middle. He went, you care about the bit in the middle. And that was something that rung true with me for a long, long time, thinking, no, I've got to be more, they've got to remember me. And what I've actually realized is me being in the middle, where I'm just I want to be liked by people, I want to do the right thing by them, is what I've built my whole career on. And it's me. And actually, don't listen when someone wants to change who you are at your core. Be who you are, because you can only be you, and then you'll be fine. And it sounds a bit wishy-washy, but genuinely, understand you and go on your own path.
Amazing. Well, look, that's an amazing point to leave on. Be yourself. Look, if you've enjoyed this discussion today, then please, if you go to amplify.me, join the newsletter, you'll hear about the next one. The next one, the 15th of June, noon again, UK time. We're going to be discussing innovation and how that can help on the scaling journey, and not just innovation of product. So, innovation of product and, in the sort of sales process, that's about delivery to the client. But there's also another thing about innovation internally, what Jay is touching on about, processes, and that helps with velocity, and velocity can have huge impact on your market share as a business. So really, really great discussion. Got some really good speakers lined up for that. So yeah, there you have it. So, don't forget the power of yet. Started the session today talking about a world of entrepreneurial success without burnout. I think one thing's for certain, that happy people are successful more than successful people are happy. So make sure that you have a passion for what you love, and be you, as Liam's just said. So thank you to the panelists. Thank you to everyone who's been watching today, and look forward to seeing you again in the very near future. So thank you.
Cheers, JP.
Thank you very much, JP.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.